Notion just released their biggest update ever. Or at least that's what they want you to believe. Hey everyone, it's Wesleyana. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing Notion's new calendar app, and this is not going to be a walkthrough or tutorial. It's really just my first impressions, which are mixed at best. Arigato gozaimasu. Sorry, I'm currently in the Osaka airport waiting for my flight to Bangkok. If you want to know why, check out this video somewhere up here. Anyway, what is Notion Calendar? Back in 2022, Notion announced that they were acquiring the calendar app Cron. And that's when we all got catfished into thinking that they were finally going to have some sort of real calendar integration for Notion, but it turned out that all they were really letting us do was add links to calendar event pages. And then at the start of 2024, Notion began this huge PR campaign across their Instagram, counting down to January 17th. There was a leak that it was going to be a calendar update, and everyone got really excited again because we thought that we were going to finally get something that the community had been asking for years. If you search Notion calendar update on YouTube, you'll find a ton of positive press about it. And honestly, as someone who didn't know that it was dropping, I was really stoked. So I spent the last few days playing around with it, trying to look at all the nitty-gritty of the features, and I didn't really think that it was living up to the hype that all these Notion influencers were raving about. So I did as I always do in these kind of situations. I went to the front page of the internet to see what actual people were saying. And it went a little something like this. Hey dude. Have you heard about the new update that Notion just launched? Oh, you mean the one where they finally let us embed a calendar into the Notion app, right? No. Oh, then it's the one where they finally let you integrate your Google Calendar events into the Notion app. No. Then what was the whole nonsense about that launch on their Instagram about? So remember that calendar app that Notion acquired back in 2022, Cron? Well, they just got a new logo. I just. No, but really, Notion did add some really cool features here. The biggest one being the ability to add your database entries to your Cron calendar, or what used to be called Cron. And this is all to help resolve two of the biggest gripes that users have been complaining about for years, which is number one, the ability to see all of your tasks and events in the same place. And number two, the ability to schedule and time block. Sounds great on paper, right? The problem is that because this app is still in its infancy, there are a lot of limitations, which are understandable, but it makes both of these use cases almost more trouble than they're worth. Now, with all that being said, here are my 5 biggest gripes. Number one, and this is the biggest one, it's a separate app. Notion advertises themselves as an all-in-one workspace. They're not the best note-taking app, they're not the best database app, they're not the best calendar app, journaling app. They don't even have basic features like full offline support or end-to-end encryption. But the reason we all love it and the reason we all spend so much time redesigning our dashboards and playing around in Notion is because it is all in one place. And they don't even make flipping between these two apps that simple. If you click on a task page in your Notion calendar, it kicks you out to a web browser instead of the desktop app. I would maybe be okay with this if they at least had the ability to embed Notion Calendar into the Notion app, but they don't. You're allowed to embed almost every tech app out there except for the one that Notion has created itself. And the second thing that drives me nutty is that you can only see pages with the dates, the time, and the entry info. There's no other properties or statuses, tags, relations, none of that shows up in the calendar app. So anytime you want to see that on an entry in the calendar, you have to click it, go out to the web browser, get kicked out back to your desktop browser, then go back to the calendar app. This also means that if you're using this for task management and task scheduling, there's no way to mark an item as done and see that that's actually done in your calendar. So there's no way to see that the tasks have been crossed off, checked off, which I think makes it really difficult to be able to just go through and use your calendar app as a schedule or an agenda throughout the day if that's how you want to time block. By the way, this is a little sneak peek into an early iteration of my new Notion system that I'm currently building. If you're interested to know more about how I go about designing my own systems for my life, then you can check out my course, which talks all about that, and I'll link it somewhere up here. Now, third gripe, you can only see pages with a date currently assigned to them. If you have a list of unscheduled tasks, for example, like in an inbox, you still have to schedule them back in the main Notion app and then bop back over to the Notion calendar to see them there. This obviously makes weekly planning and daily planning very difficult. Now, number 4, although your Notion database entries are synced between your Notion app and your Notion calendar, that same two-way sync doesn't exist for your external calendars. So if you add your Gmail account to the Notion calendar app, you can see Google Events in the Notion calendar app alongside your database entries from the Notion app, but there's no way for you to see those Google Calendar events in the main Notion app. If you want this kind of feature, you still have to pay for another service like Zapier or Notion Automations, which is what I currently use. And speaking of Google Calendar, the 5th and final gripe is that that is the only calendar you can integrate into Notion app. You can't use Apple Calendar, you can't use Outlook, and surprisingly, there's no support for an Android app yet, despite the Googleification of all of this. And it's probably worth mentioning that you can't sign into Notion Calendar with your Notion email address. You have to use your Google Calendar email. Now, of course, there are creative ways you can get around all of this. For example, you might schedule all of your new content ideas on the first Monday of every month and not give them a time. And then when you go through and do all of your content planning for that next month, you can see all of them stacked there already, and then you can start dragging them across the calendar. But I don't think it should fall on the user to have to use hacks in order to just get around a lack of very basic feature requirements. Okay, look, I know I've been a bit harsh so far. It's for dramatic effect, I'm sorry. But I am genuinely excited for the direction that this is going in. And as someone who has worked in product before, I do understand that these kind of integrations take time. Although I do sincerely hope that Notion reevaluates its roadmap this year. I think we can all agree that we could use less AI chatbots and more standard quality of life improvements. And as for me, I will not be integrating this into my workflow quite yet. I still think apps like Okiflow and Notion Automation still offer better solutions than what Notion Calendar is currently doing. Although, to be fair, those aren't free, so that is a very big pro in favor of Notion. I am still going to play around with this a little bit more, and maybe I'll come up with some sort of creative workarounds for the stuff that I've been complaining about, although if I do, it will be done very begrudgingly. And like I mentioned earlier, I am currently working on a new Notion system, so be on the lookout for that. If you're interested in knowing when that releases, you can sign up for my email list. And in the meantime, my current template is still up for sale, as well as my Notion course, which can teach you all about how to create your own templates and your own systems from scratch. Other than that, I hope you are having a great start to the new year, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.